For millennia, the Great Pyramid of Giza has captivated humanity, sparking endless debate about the ingenious methods used to construct this colossal monument over 45 centuries ago. Its reign as the tallest man-made structure for roughly 4,000 years is a testament to the extraordinary engineering required to raise those immense stones to such dizzying heights. The earliest written account of its construction comes from the Greek historian Herodotus around 450 BC. He proposed that the pyramid was initially built as a step structure, similar to earlier pyramids. Wooden machines, acting as levers on each tier, were then used to hoist the final blocks into place. Herodotus also confidently asserted that the pyramid received its smooth outer casing from top to bottom. Modern historians believe Herodotus's information was likely embellished or fabricated by local Egyptian guides, who themselves lived 2,000 years after the pyramid's construction and were left to speculate. Indeed, some of Herodotus's claims have since been refuted. Modern archaeology offers frustratingly few clues about the construction techniques employed. The use of ramps to drag the blocks upward is one of the few widely accepted methods. However, the size, slope, quantity, and path of these ramps remain highly controversial, with no consensus among Egyptologists. One innovative theory comes from French architect Jean-Pierre Houdan, who in the early 2000s proposed the use of an internal spiral ramp. Working with Egyptologist Bob Brier, Houdan published his ideas, suggesting that the Great Pyramid was constructed using an internal spiral ramp in conjunction with an external straight ramp on the south side. The external ramp would only extend about 1/3 of the way up the pyramid, used for transporting the heaviest granite and limestone beams for the upper chambers. The Grand Gallery, located opposite the external ramp, could have served as a counterweight system to assist in hauling the largest blocks upward. After the King's Chamber was completed, the internal ramp would facilitate the construction of the upper 2/3 of the pyramid, eliminating the need for an excessively large external ramp. These two concepts, the internal spiral ramp and the Grand Gallery counterweight system, form the core of Houdan's theory. Houdan's construction model, focusing on the ramp design and counterweights, offers a compelling solution to the challenges faced by the builders of the Great Pyramid. The internal ramp negates the need for a massive external ramp and allows for constant geometry checks, while the straight external ramp, paired with Grand Gallery counterweights, enables the elevation of enormous blocks without redirection or an army of 600 workers per block. The 5th Dynasty Sun Temple of Nusera showcases a clear internal ramp structure, lending archaeological support to the concept. Additionally, the Grand Gallery exhibits scratches and stains indicative of repetitive force. Despite the merit and detail of Houdan's ideas, they were largely dismissed by academic Egyptologists. Only Bob Brier, a mummy specialist, recognized the potential and facilitated Houdan's access to crucial sites. Brier secured permission to climb the Great Pyramid and document the notch and cavity on the northeastern corner, aligning with Houdan's theory of an internal ramp turn. While Houdan's theory was the first plausible one, he was later denied thermal camera inspections. The 2011 Arab Spring Revolution further complicated matters, ending official collaboration with institutional Egyptology. Despite research constraints, Houdan's popular ideas attracted scientists eager to investigate further, particularly through muography, a technique detecting internal spaces based on muon particle absorption. This collaboration culminated in the 2015 founding of the Heritage, Innovation, and Preservation Institute. This HIAP Institute spearheaded the Scan Pyramids mission, a scientific expedition employing non-invasive scanning to analyze pyramid interiors. However, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities tightly controls research permissions. Houdan notes in his 2022 paper that the mission obtained authorizations under the condition of being agnostic, with data from any discoveries freely available to researchers. As a consequence of his dedication to unraveling the mysteries of Khufu's pyramid, Jean-Pierre Houdan found himself excluded from the Scan Pyramids mission, his name absent from any official documentation. He believed the pursuit of knowledge and the potential for groundbreaking discoveries superseded any personal recognition. Yet his altruism seemed to be met with unforeseen repercussions. A scientific committee, led by former Minister Zahi Hawass, was appointed to oversee the Scan Pyramids project. In 2016, The mission unveiled its initial findings concerning the Great Pyramid, revealing a concealed cavity in the northeastern corner and a void nestled behind the chevrons above the entrance. Houdan, however, appeared to cast a shadow of doubt over the entire endeavor, seemingly influenced by his personal feelings toward Houdan, who had already withdrawn from participation. This, many argued, deviated from the principles of objective scientific inquiry. Despite the obstacles, the Scan Pyramids team persevered, eventually detecting a vast cavity above the Grand Gallery, rivaling it in both size and orientation. These monumental findings were presented to Houdan's committee on September 13, 2017. The committee responded by imposing a series of constraints: a ban on media disclosure at that stage, a requirement for publication in a peer-reviewed scientific journal before any public announcement, and a cessation of scanning activities until these conditions were met. These stipulations threatened to derail the entire mission. Scientific publications can often take up to a year, and maintaining secrecy about such a significant discovery seemed an impossible task. Nevertheless, owing to the expertise of the Scan Pyramid scientists and the importance of their results, the journal Nature expedited the review process, and the findings were finally published on November 2, 2019. The world was captivated by the announcement of the Scan Pyramids discovery, a landmark moment for the pyramids of Egypt, and the most significant discovery at the Great Pyramid since Howard Weiss opened the so-called relieving chambers in 1837. Yet amidst the global excitement, a segment of academics and Egyptologists expressed disappointment. David Lightbody, who later questioned the Scan Pyramids' conclusions in a published paper, shared his sentiments 4 days after the announcement. He expressed the emotional toll it took on him despite his love for Egyptology and archaeology, acknowledging the headaches and heartaches it caused him and those he knew. The past few days had been challenging, but as they say, it's always darkest before dawn. When researcher Lightbody sought feedback on his paper, questioning the void, his peers noticed a troubling trend. He seemed to erase any critique that contradicted his own conclusions. While this might seem a detour from Houdan's theories, the Scan Pyramids' discovery of a significant void is central to the unfolding narrative. It's important to acknowledge how certain prominent critics sometimes cloak their personal ambitions under the guise of scientific inquiry. Sadly, this practice is not uncommon within Egyptology. This unethical behavior gives biased people a reason to dismiss scientific archaeology that is essential to understanding the pyramids. Returning to the matter of the void, it serves as a critical piece of evidence that supports Houdan's revised theory of pyramid construction. The Grand Gallery, envisioned as a construction ramp, has always been a compelling element of Houdan's hypothesis. However, his initial design had its limitations. Given that many of the Great Pyramid's largest blocks are positioned above the King's Chamber, the Grand Gallery's location isn't ideally suited for lifting them to such heights. Houdan's original model required builders to keep the Grand Gallery's roof open, allowing ropes to pass through at sharp angles to a counterweight system. The newly discovered void, however, offers a potential solution. If it is a single inclined space, much like the Grand Gallery, it could be used to aid in dragging those colossal stones to the highest levels above the King's Chamber. It's reasonable to suggest that the void currently lends credence to Houdan's ideas about the Grand Gallery. Even before the void's discovery, figures like Houdan were beginning to see the merit in Houdan's Grand Gallery concept. Notably, the 2017 book, Giza and the Pyramids, makes no reference to the so-called Great Step at the Grand Gallery's apex. One might expect a stone with such a prominent name, positioned precisely along the pyramid's north-south axis, to warrant at least some recognition in such a comprehensive history of Giza. In fact, this Great Step is the focus of Egyptologist John Romer's 564-page book, The Great Pyramid, published in 2007. He passionately describes it as the pyramid's masterpiece, marking its refoundation and centerline. The omission of the Great Step in Houdan's book seems deliberate, and Jean-Pierre Houdan's theory could be the reason. If Houdan is right, and the Great Step is actually a trench, as it appeared over a century ago, then Egypt's Antiquities Department may have significantly damaged the Great Pyramid through an inaccurate restoration. A trench would have facilitated rope passage more effectively than a step, which would have caused friction. The Antiquities Department likely assumed it was a step due to the Arabic tradition of calling it the Great Step, further leading them to believe that the upper portion was missing because of damage. Zahi Hawass, former director of the Ministry of Antiquities, oversaw numerous restoration projects, including some in the 1990s. This provides a clear motive for Hawass to reject Houdan's theories, as they implicate the ministry in potentially destroying a crucial piece of history. Instead of acknowledging this conflict of interest and recusing himself, Hawass asserted his authority over the scientific process. It's no surprise, then, that mainstream Egyptology has largely ignored Houdan's ideas. Having reviewed the latest update to Houdan's theory, it's a bit underwhelming. Houdan's primary strength and weakness lies in his proposal of an efficient construction method that minimizes manual labor. However, the ancient Egyptians had access to vast reserves of conscripted labor. It's unlikely that they would have complicated the pyramid design simply to reduce manpower. In Houdan's revised model, he incorporates vertical counterweights, similar to those found in modern elevators, to boost the pulling force of the Grand Gallery mechanisms. This solution seems improbable, and there's no archaeological evidence to support it. Surely the void, functioning as a secondary Grand Gallery and assisted by human force, would have sufficed. To Houdan's credit, he is trying to account for all of the scanned pyramid data, even though it's insufficient to model hidden structures completely. Houdan notes that he suffered a heart attack in 2017. Given the slow pace of Egyptology, he may feel that this is his last opportunity to work with new data, pushing his theory to its limits now, rather than waiting for further information. One captivating aspect of Houdan's construction model has always been the staging area for the largest blocks, located 43 meters high on the pyramid's south side. In his latest revision, this staging area is still utilized, but needs to be raised in multiple stages to approximately 58 meters in height in order to use the big void as a counterweight space. The damage on the pyramid's southern side might suggest that this section employed a less durable construction technique. The possibility of the staging area being filled in presents a potential issue. I still find certain aspects of Houdan's theory illogical, particularly his insistence on fully smoothing every casing stone before installation. Numerous granite and limestone casing stones were installed with undressed outer faces, while Houdan notes the softness of the limestone when excavated, arguing that cutting is easier at the quarry. Transporting sharp-edged stones would be prone to breakage, potentially increasing costs. The countless patched casing stones at the bent pyramid demonstrate the frequency of such damage. The small shafts emanating from the king's and queen's chambers also raise doubts. Houdan suggests these shafts amplified sound for workers coordinating counterweights, but the queen's chamber shafts were not initially open at their lower ends. The notion that the blocks surrounding them were movable for opening and closing seems improbable. If the king's chamber shafts were left open, there is no logical reason for such functionality in the queen's chamber shafts. While Houdan's latest paper doesn't fully elaborate on the internal ramp theory, he hints at further discussion in forthcoming papers. After reviewing this publication, I believe I can improve upon his model. While I remain undecided on the internal ramp concept, I propose the ramp should begin in the staging area where the external straight ramp ends, avoiding the extra half-kilometer drag for blocks. Houdan initiates his internal ramp at the pyramid's base to integrate hypothetical chambers and corridors, structures I doubt exist. I also don't believe workers needed an escape route beyond the discovered chambers. Notably, physical evidence for a spiral ramp, like the northeastern cavities, appears only high on the monument, absent in the lower third. Moreover, the masonry where Houdan proposes the internal ramp start shows no unusual design. Houdan's idea of recycling the external ramp for the upper pyramid masonry is impractical. Constructing the Great Pyramid would have produced vast amounts of limestone chips. This byproduct could have been used for the external ramp, reinforced by stronger retaining walls, aligning with archaeological ramp designs. Thus, any spiraling ramp, internal or external, would be more efficient starting from where the straight ramp concluded. Regardless of the ultimate accuracy of Houdan's detailed model, we owe him a debt for his monumental effort to advance Great Pyramid studies. The discovery of the scanned pyramid's large void stemmed from his desire to solve a Great Pyramid mystery. His perseverance in pursuing his curiosity is commendable, especially considering the resistance from much of Egyptology, which continues to casually dismiss his achievements. Houdan's dedication felt unappreciated, a sentiment fueled by dismissive attitudes he endured for over 2 decades. The notion that echo noise could be a common issue in pyramid muography is unfounded, especially since scanned pyramids mark the first instance of detecting such anomalies. The Scanned Pyramids project, employing 3 independent teams using varying detection angles and scanning methodologies, yielded compelling results. Control scans of the bent pyramid showed no internal echoes, nor did scans of chambers within the Great Pyramid. All teams achieved a 5 sigma level of confidence, further solidifying the findings. Moreover, David Lightbody's critique of the void paper doesn't even attribute the large void signal to echo noise. Ironically, Sarah Parcak, while quick to dismiss others, lamented the neglect of novel technologies when it came to her own research endeavors. Unveiling ancient mysteries is an uphill battle, especially when dealing with cutting-edge technology. Skepticism often clouds judgment, with many dismissing discoveries as mere technological fads promising to solve every enigma. Back in 2011, Sarah Parcak boldly announced to the world the discovery of 17 hidden pyramids, all spotted through the lens of satellite imagery. Yet 11 years have passed and not a single one has materialized as a true pyramid. Regardless of how unconventional some of Jean-Pierre Houdan's ideas might appear, established Egyptology often presents theories that stretch credulity even further. The quest to understand the construction of the Great Pyramid and other monumental Egyptian pyramids is far from over. Houdan's work offers an invaluable idealized model, a framework from which we can glean significant insights. It has already led us to discover substantial voids within the structure, instilling confidence that further investigation will yield even more knowledge. The enduring lesson from Houdan's exploration of the Great Pyramid is that the pursuit of understanding is never truly complete. This extraordinary achievement from antiquity continues to warrant our attention and dedication. The mysteries surrounding it are real and potentially solvable, and only by mirroring Houdan's commitment can we hope to illuminate them.